All right. Hi, I'm Robin Ross. I'm a birth doula and childbirth educator, and I am here with Dr. Katie O'Connor. Dr. Katie is an amazing and incredible chiropractor. She is Webster certified and has a specialty in nutrition and mostly in prenatal and postnatal nutrition. And I brought her here today to really go over tips that moms can have as they are navigating their pregnancy, especially those who have aversions to certain foods. I know in my pregnancies, they were all different. And in the beginning phases, I'm not going to lie, I craved not so great food. That was all I could eat. So it's good to have an expert in the field to understand things to help a mom, especially with the aversions, on how to get good nutrition. When is a good time to start looking into nutrition for pregnancy, and as well as after birth. So I'm going to let Dr. Katie share her top tips, how she even got started in getting into the nutrition phase of health and wellness, and how you can find her. So again, Dr. Katie, thank you so much for joining today. And yeah, please share your knowledge of how a mom can get into good nutrition, what that might look like, and whatever else you can lend to us.
Sounds awesome. Thanks, Robin, for having me on here to share. I love to be able to have more platforms to share because I think it is a huge issue that no one wants to talk about because no one wants to think too much about nutrition, but people are worried about it at the same time, right? Like we want to be healthy, but at the same time, if we don't have the information, it's not something that we're necessarily like, oh man, I really want to go do all this research. I want to read tons of books because we all have so much time to just read books on everything, right? So I'm super glad I could share a few things. I think the biggest thing that I love for people to remember is that you are an individual. And so even if you do get into reading all of the things and you're on all the sites and you're talking to both a midwife and a doula and an obstetrician and I don't know, your acupuncturist and your chiropractor, and everybody's probably going to have something to say, and probably only like 30% of it will apply to you. Because, everybody is individual, and some people will crave Dr. Pepper and some people want to eat raw asparagus. Like, I don't know what it is, right? And so I can't just tell everybody like, okay, let's just eat mostly veggies and fruits, good healthy proteins, keep it moderate, low carb, healthy whole grain. Like, you probably already knew that. So that's it, guys. Do it. No. That's not enough. I think most people really do know a lot about that already, what is sort of healthy. But the question is how do I eat that way when all I want to do is stuff like stale Peeps from Easter in my mouth right now, which could be your reality. So what I always like to start with as my top tip is the 80-20 rule. And so whether that's you keeping a food journal or you're mentally really good at it, it's a way to say to yourself, my baby is super important. And what I'm eating right now is literally making my baby. So that's really important. We can't just say, you don't feel good, eat whatever. That's just not good advice. It might stink, but that's true. But at the same time, you also can't just say, well, I'm just going to force all this other stuff and like be miserable because, you being stressed is also not really great for baby. And if you feel super stressed about your nutrition and you're being crazy about charting and logging, that's not great either. So the 80-20 rule really allows us to say 80% of what I do is going to be amazing for baby and I'm going to make good choices so that when I'm looking at something, I'm like, okay, 80-20 rule, what have I had already today? I had some hash browns and a coffee with 8 cream and 2 sugar. And okay, so I'm probably already at my 20%. Let me put back, the cake. That's how you can evaluate everything that you're eating through the day. And it's easy without having to like track or kind of keep a log. You don't have to be perfect, but I think you can be honest with yourself and say, okay, like I might have already hit my 20% for the day of like garbagey stuff. So let me just make 80% good. And that can also work really well if you're sick, because a lot of women are only sick at a certain point in the day. Everybody calls it morning sickness, but I feel like that's such a misnomer nowadays. I don't know. I mean, some people it really is the morning, but some people are like, I can't eat after 5 o'clock at night. Like, I don't know what it is. So whatever that time is, maybe save your 20% for that. Like if you know that you can't even look at a vegetable or a fruit or a burger or something through a certain point of day, but you can eat saltine crackers, which really have obviously no nutritional value, then like that's a good time to save your 20% or stuff the cake in the face. And then you don't have to feel guilty about it because you're like, hey, it's my 20%. I'm not going to feel bad about this cake. It's delicious and it's my 20% for the day. I already had broccoli and it was awesome. So the 80-20 is kind of my top. I know you had said, when is the best time to start? And you already knew I was going to say before you get pregnant. But if you're watching this video, there's a good chance that the cat is already out of the bag. That first trimester morning sickness, it really can be staved off by being a little bit healthier before you conceive. But if, in fact, the cat is already out of the bag for you, the best thing you can do is try to ease it back into good nutrition. I think the hardest thing people will do is they'll hear some good advice about nutrition and try it and fail at it because they tried to suddenly eat like a, vegetable smoothie for breakfast when they already felt like they were going to go over the deep end there. And of course, then it doesn't go well twice visited. And so then it makes it extra hard for you to get into that at all. So use that 80-20 rule, but also the best thing we found so far to combat not only just regular morning sickness, but if you have hyperemesis, HG, if you've been diagnosed with that, we've had actually good results with increasing protein intake. Most people, it's like the opposite of what they think because they just want to stuff in the white carbs, right? But we find that what that does to your blood sugar levels actually it'll feel good in that second, but it will actually make the whole situation worse. Getting protein in the middle of the night or first thing in the morning. And the reason I say is the middle of the night is by the time people wake up in the morning, if they're starting to deal with morning sickness, they already don't feel good enough to want to eat a protein source. It just doesn't sound good, but it actually really works. So sometimes I'll suggest the middle of the night because if you are waking up to pee at 4 a.m, which you probably are, you could keep a handful of almonds or you could keep a hard-boiled egg. It's not going to go bad for a few minutes sitting by your bedside table, or if you can run to the fridge for a snack, or if you're a cottage cheese person, or maybe you feel good about eating a plain chicken breast. I'm totally that person that grills up chicken and just has it in my refrigerator as a snack. I'm not a huge fan of like lunch meats, but some decent cold cuts if you can get some stuff that's not full of all the preservatives and stuff. Any source of meat protein, beans are an okay source of protein too. I don't know who wants to eat beans at 4 a.m, but hey, pregnant women, you'd probably be the one. So, but if you can get it in like in the middle of the night or first thing in the morning, we have found that actually increasing your protein intake by anywhere between like 15 and 30%, which could just be one portion or two, has almost eliminated morning sickness and actually really allowed people that had had the really bad hyperemesis to actually gain weight and not necessarily have it be so much of a problem through all of pregnancy, which can be really, not great. So those would probably be my top tips for that as far as that goes. I think that encompasses a huge portion of what I talk to most of my pregnant mamas about.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And these are great tips too. And now you are doing some virtual classes, I know. Can you just speak a little bit about what those classes entail?
Yeah. So we do talk about some type of these tips. We go through these, but then we're just going to break down a little bit more in detail, like what a day could look like, what meal planning could look like, and also to just how to work with that, like how to figure it out so that it's stress-free, because there is so much stuff to add. You're adding birthing classes, you're going shopping for baby stuff, you're still working maybe even more because you're trying to save up for that maternity leave. You're doing so much stuff that it's like, well, I don't have time now to suddenly change how I eat. And for some of you might be healthy, but some of you might not be, and that's okay. But if you're trying to change and you're like, I want to do right for my baby, how do we make those changes in the easiest way possible? Because people just won't do something that isn't easy. I mean, I'm totally about that. Like if my gym is more than 5 minutes from my house, I probably won't go. It just is what it is. So we talk a lot about that, and just sort of some of the pitfalls. It's kind of a great way to have Q&A, question and answer, because like I said, everybody is so individual. So somebody might say, well, I can't eat this, this, and this. What could I eat? And that's a great way for me to be able to individually be able to, go over stuff like that as well. So basically a lot of just top tips. We can structure out what a meal planning structure looks like, how to prep ahead, what are the best snack options, and then almost kind of like FAQs, like frequently asked questions. What does that look like?
Love it. Love it. Ah, wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, how can people find you if they were interested in learning more, maybe even setting up a virtual class, learning about all that and what you offer even in person as well?
No, good question. Life Naturally Chiro, and that Chiro is CHIRO, is the website. Or you can always email. It's Dr. O Life Natural, so DRO, not the full word. So those are probably the two best ways. And you can access my courses on there. I've got an online course that's outside of the virtual course being live and that being something evergreen that's always there. And then I do also do personalized nutritional consultations. So if you feel like you need some real just like one-on-one and you can't make the course time, or you just want to actually have a plan set up for you, I do that too. Either virtually a lot nowadays or from the office and stuff like that. And that's where in the office, of course, we deal with more physical aches and pains, as well as that Webster technique to keep the body super balanced. And there's some things to that too, maybe not necessarily with nutrition, but in dealing with nutrition-based symptoms like the sickness, or a lot of moms have the GERD, acid reflux, which can really be an issue with nutrition because that's kind of goes hand in hand with sickness. And from a physical perspective, I can help to work with that as well if we're working physically in the office too.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Katie, for joining us today. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Again, you can reach out to Dr. Katie if you have any other questions or want to know more about the services she offers. And stay tuned because we will have more segments as well, and working with Dr. Katie as she's the expert in her field. So again, thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.